Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just calling to tell you what a great product you have. I had used this about, 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, January 24th, 2019. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. We have got a lot of stuff to talk about today. There's a lot going on. And the phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Sam is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble, ready to answer the phone when you call on in. And I want to start with Venezuela because that's obviously the new flashpoint going on. And this is very obviously another coup d'etat. And you know what's really ironic? This Juan Guaido basically anointed himself as president. And the United States government is supporting him, saying it's an exercise in democracy, which it isn't. He's not elected. You know, they're trying to get Maduro out of there. But Maduro's position is very, very strong. The military is on his side. Most of the government is on his side. And so it looks like this could come to violence. And it could get very, very ugly very, very quickly here. Now, as you know, Maduro broke off all diplomatic relations with the United States following the statement by Mike Pence saying that Juan Guaido was the legitimate president and that Maduro should go. And he gave the U.S. diplomats 72 hours to get out of Venezuela. The U.S. is refusing to withdraw their diplomats from Venezuela and says they will take appropriate actions if they are harmed. And I got to tell you, this one made the hair stand up on the back of my neck, okay, because the U.S. government may be setting those diplomats and their families up to be the sacrificial lambs in a false flag attack that would justify U.S. military intervention in Venezuela, because absent since intervention, it doesn't look like this coup is going to be any more successful than the one that was organized against Hugo Chavez. But everybody's out there rattling their sabers here, and Pompeo came on out and said the United States does not believe President Nicolas Maduro has the legal authority to break Venezuela's diplomatic ties with Washington. So, yeah, they're making targets out of these people, out of the diplomats and their families here. Meanwhile, Venezuela has ordered the closing of all embassies and consulates in the United States and the return of all diplomatic personnel to Venezuela. Now, Canada, Brazil, Peru, and Colombia have all issued statements saying they recognize Juan Guaido as the Venezuelan president. Venezuela has issued a statement that they recognize Hillary Clinton as the president of the United States. And no, they didn't, but I mean, that's just how absurd this whole situation is. And it's amazing to hear all this talk about democracy. Maduro won the election. And of course, everybody's out there screaming, oh, the election was rigged. The election was rigged. No proof, of course. And let me ask you a question. If the election was rigged, why did the opposition party win control of the Venezuelan legislature? Again, look for what should be there and isn't. Now, Iran, Turkey, and Russia are warning the United States against meddling in the domestic affairs of Venezuela, which is clearly what the United States is doing. For all the, ballyhooing we've been hearing about foreign meddling in our domestic politics, no country has the right to meddle in U.S. politics, except Israel, of course. But the U.S. has a long history of meddling in other countries all over the world. Iran in 1953, Chile in 1973 are two that leap to the top of memory at this particular point here. So Iran, Turkey, and Russia are saying no. You've got this U.S.-backed opposition leader has simply basically anointed himself. He said, I am now the president here. And let's see. Apparently, China has now chimed on in, slamming U.S. interference in Venezuela. Okay. All right. I am, let's see, not seeing it. Somebody was just sending me something. All right, let's get on back to this thing. So we're talking about all this foreign interference that's going on. Now, Vladimir Putin has come on out with a statement. He's supporting the elected government of Venezuela, and he's criticizing the destructive external meddling to which the country has been exposed. And we're not talking about just this recent coup d'etat. The United States has been trying to destabilize Venezuela going all the way back to Hugo Chavez, including one failed coup attempt. The reason conditions in Venezuela are so terrible, and by the way, Fox News was running this story where they said, this is how bad things are in Maduro's Venezuela, and they showed a chicken and a big pile of paper cash that you need to buy one. That's the result of the economic warfare and the economic sanctions imposed on Venezuela by the United States. The U.S. has created this mess to blame it on Maduro to drive it from power. And Trump should not be going along with it because he is basically setting a precedent for the same thing to be done to him. Just think about that. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network here. So Putin is out there saying that U.S. interference violates international law, and it does, and Russia is warning the United States against military interference in Venezuela's affairs. Of course, the United States isn't going to listen. They have lusted for Venezuela. They have coveted Venezuela. They want control of that oil. They're very angry that Venezuela sells their oil for currencies other than the U.S. dollar. And that cannot be allowed to stand. We're going to drag this world back to the Cold War and Bretton Woods, whether they want it or not. And again, some of the hypocrisy is absolutely stunning. Over in France, Emmanuel Macron is hailing the protests in the streets of Caracas as a restoration of democracy. Funny, he doesn't say the same thing about the Yellow Vest protest in Paris. So very clearly, all these many, okay, apparently Mike Pompeo has just offered the opponent candidate in Venezuela $20 million in financial support. Yeah, that's definitely meddling in their internal affairs here. And they're really pushing as hard as they can, and they're going to get a lot of people killed, is what's going to happen. But the U.S. government doesn't really care. Look how many people have died in Afghanistan. Look how many people died in Iraq. Look how many people are dying in Syria. They just don't care. Anyway, so we have a new flashpoint to worry about, one that could kick off a war between the great powers. Another article, this one's coming out of IntelliHub. World War III cometh. Syria is threatening to bomb the airport at Tel Aviv. Iran is pledging to wipe Israel off the map. I wish Iran would tamp down the rhetoric, but on the other hand, they've been listening to Israel's nonsense for 30 years. I mean, Israel has been saying Iran is just weeks away from a nuclear weapon for 30 years, and of course, it never happened. And it turned out that the inspections related to the P5+1 deal showed that Iran was not, in fact, trying to build a nuclear weapon. They were building fuel rods for the power plants they're allowed to have under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They're engaged in the process of making medical isotopes and other nuclear peaceful products that they're entitled to make here. But Israel wants Iran broken up. They want it balkanized. They want it made weak the way Iraq was. Iran is has a lot of influence in the region, and Israel doesn't want that. Israel wants to wear Sauron's ring and just rule it all. And they have their slaves over in the U.S. government getting ready to send your children and your money over there to do it. Now, Russia and Turkey have reached an agreement to take steps to stabilize Syria's Idlib. Apparently, Erdogan arrived in Moscow yesterday with several of his cabinet members for a day-long visit. And they're saying, yes, there are some serious problems out there, and they're going to work to try and tap them on down. Of course, a big part of the problems in Syria are from external interference, meaning the United States and its so-called coalition here. Apparently, Arab protesters have started clashing with the Syrian Democratic Forces. Apparently, the SDF murdered a civilian. That triggered off a huge protest. And apparently, according to sources, Ahmed al-Zaban, a member of the prominent al-Bukhamis tribe, was killed because he refused to join the Syrian Democratic Forces. Now remember, the Syrian Democratic Forces are one of the U.S.-backed opposition groups. U.S.-backed, U.S.-trained, U.S.-supplied. And this has basically triggered huge protests against the SDF. This is grassroots. This is not government. This is not staged for the media. This is a grassroots support here. Meanwhile, Kurdish forces claim that they've overrun the last ISIS-held village in eastern Syria. Unfortunately, this is the third time they've said that, and it appears that ISIS is employing a technique that was used quite successfully up in Afghanistan by the Taliban. When there was an attack coming on in, don't defend, retreat. Let the enemy take over whatever village it was going to be, and then eventually most of their forces would move on to other operations, and you come back in and recapture the village. And this, of course, makes it very, very difficult to see just how long all of this is going to continue. Now, as you've probably already heard, Russia has informed Israel no more arbitrary airstrikes in Syria. And, of course, Israel is out there saying, well, we're responding to a rocket that was fired from Syria into the Golan. And what they leave out, of course, is that the rocket fired into the Golan was itself a response to Israeli attacks over by Damascus. It's just going back and forth. And Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova is out there saying, we should never allow Syria, which has suffered years of armed conflict, to be turned into an arena where geopolitical scores are settled. In other words, she's saying, if we're not careful, this will become the next Vietnam, where the war isn't really about the country and its people. It's just a place where the great powers can, take little pot shots at each other. Now, President Rivlin, Israel's President Rivlin, has told his French counterpart that Israel could be forced to strike the Hezbollah rocket-building operations in the heart of Beirut. They're talking about going on in and bombing Beirut. And, of course, that would start a war with Lebanon. And every once in a while, Israel likes to start a war with Lebanon. They still want that Litani River. They still want that Litani River. Now, Over in the Israeli news, there's been kind of an interesting admission that Iron Dome really isn't working out quite the way they had hoped. And the reason has to do with economics. It's all high tech and really cool, so to speak, but it's practically useless because it is just too expensive to operate. They're shooting $200,000 interceptor missiles to hit a $100 homemade rocket. And so the Israeli army has decided against deploying the Iron Dome in Sderot, and the available systems will only be deployed during war. Of course, I'm sure from Netanyahu's point of view is, so what if Iron Dome costs $200,000 a shot? We get the Americans to pay for it. That's what they're for, after all. Down in Florida, they're jumping on the bandwagon. They're getting ready to pass a bill that would label criticism of Israel in Florida schools as anti-Semitic. And again, this is an attack on the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. They're trying to equate criticism of the actions of the government of Israel with anti-Semitism, which is like trying to say that criticism of the Nazis is hatred of the German people. I mean, that's how absurd and nonsensical this is. But Israel's lock on our politicians is so strong. I think this, if Florida does pass this bill and it goes into law, this will be like the 27th state that's gone down that path. But the fact of the matter is that criticism of the government of Israel, or any government, especially our own, is protected by that First Amendment. Now, at some point, this is going to wind up at the Supreme Court. So we'll see what happens there. Getting back on over to Europe, apparently German Yellow Vest protesters are protesting against Emmanuel Macron and Angela Merkel signing this little treaty which aims to bring together the economic and defense policies of France and Germany in a prototype sovereign Europe. This is the beginning of trying to basically get rid of national identities, which are already eroded by the EU, and basically start welding all of these EU member states into a single federalized European superstate. Europe, Europe, über alles. Anyway, so the German Yellow Vests are not happy about that. Okay, now doctors are now saying that the number of serious injuries inflicted by the police on the Yellow Vests is unprecedented. Now, you probably noticed there's not a lot of coverage of the Yellow Vests. It's kind of vanished from the corporate media here in the United States. But apparently the French forces are starting to use some very serious weapons. It's no longer just water cannons and tear gas. Apparently, they're using something called a flashball shot. And this has led to some serious injuries, including at least 4 protesters, 2 of them women, losing an eye and suffering facial disfigurement. Now, Marion Maréchal Le Pen, who's the niece of Marine Le Pen, is comparing the Yellow Vest protesters to supporters of Brexit. And the former French member of parliament spoke to a packed crowd of 500 people at Oxford Union this week and made a 20-minute speech calling for the formation of a new elite who understand the needs of regular people, saying politicians need to reconnect with the people, which sounds good and it's a good idea. The problem is we have seen over the last couple of decades where the politicians and the elites are working as hard as they can to disconnect from regular people. They don't want to be bothered. They just want to go on playing their little political games and grabbing as big a chunk of the world and the wealth as they can. Now, over in Great Britain, there are rumors, it is yet to be confirmed, that the British press has been given what's called a D notice regarding the Yellow Vest protests. And Sorry, I was distracted. I'm being fed information from another source here. Now, for those of you who don't understand, in Britain, a D notice is an order issued by the government to the media to not cover a story. They don't have freedom of the press in Great Britain. Of course, we don't have much freedom of the press here either, despite claims to the contrary. But if true, it's basically a media gag order. And again, we're not seeing much about the yellow vests here on our America's Corporate Media. Okay, apparently Mike Pence has just made a statement that there should be a coup in Venezuela. Well, yeah, that's what the U.S. has been trying to do. The concern is we may already have boots on the ground in Venezuela, and I would suspect that, yeah, as rapidly as this is moving, we may already be militarily engaged there. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We've got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some have maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And for those of you who would like to support Republic Broadcasting, and in these very, very dark times where the corporate media is just selling war, 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 war. I mean, the bashing of Venezuela is now nonstop. Oh, the dictator Maduro. The guy was elected. Okay. But we've seen this same pattern repeated over and over and over again. And right now, the corporate media is totally useless. They're the matrix. So if you want to support Republic Broadcasting, and they need your help right now, more than ever, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. I was just looking on the Fox News crawl, and Mike Pence has made another statement basically saying the U.S. will take action in Venezuela, quote, until democracy is restored. No, until another U.S. puppet ruler is put into power, trying to expand the empire. All right, let's take some phone calls, starting with Joe in California. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Well, I just want to say that if President Maduro or any of the Venezuelan people are listening to this show, I would like to tell them that all clear and sane American citizens are not on board with this attack on their country. It's just this insane neocon, warmongering class elite scum that are pushing this. So just wanted to get that out. Also, Mike, I don't know if you saw this. It was in Martin Armstrong's blog. The numbers might not be accurate, but he says that the funding for the wall, Trump is asking for $5.2 billion. That might be, I've heard estimates that the wall would cost $20 billion, but whatever the case, $5.2 billion. You know, that is less than 1 week's interest payment on the debt, which is about $6.5 billion. So the Democrats may claim that it's a case of not having the money. Well, they have the money to make these interest payments to these private central bankers. Mike, last point on ISIS. You had said yesterday, you in fact said ISIS is a tool. We know ISIS is a tool of the CIA, of the deep state. It's their proxy jihadi army meant to destroy Syria and Iran. The point about the attack in Manbij, the suicide attack, that was probably done by ISIS. You know, it was ordered by their masters in Langley, but they want the Americans to stay. You keep saying that they want the Americans to leave. They want the Americans to stay because they need that protection. If the Americans leave, the Russians and the Syrians will wipe them out.
Well, you make a valid point here, but I was framing my argument in the context that ISIS is supposed to be the bad guys and the opponents. Now, you and I and the listeners to RBN know what's really going on. But for the wider American population who are still buying or drinking the Kool-Aid from the corporate media, it doesn't make sense for ISIS to be bombing, at a time when Trump says we're going to get out of Syria. In any event, we're not withdrawing from Syria. It looks like the withdrawal from Afghanistan is off.
We're not. And the problem with Syria is you have three big issues that converge in Syria. One is you have the Shia crescent, meaning the Iranians and the Shias in Iraq, Syria, and Hezbollah. You have the issue of the Golan, which the Israelis do not want to give up, especially now with the oil reserves being found, and in fact they've already started exploring. And then the third point is what's the third point? Third point is the gas pipeline that the Qataris want to build through Syria and onto Europe. Yes. And the U.S. wants that as well, and to weaken Russia. So they're never going to leave Syria. I feel so bad for Assad. He's a good man. He protects the Christian minority, but he's never going to be safe. They are not going to leave Syria. It's never going to happen. The Zionist Venezuela. I think the Zionist angle is the Venezuelan government is very pro-Palestinian. So that's another reason why they want Venezuela, Maduro taken out.
Yeah. And
So,
we're coming up on a point here where all of these little tiny wars all over the globe are all going to sort of melt together, and we're truly going to be in World War III, and it's going to get really, really ugly.
oh, last point, Mike, if I may say, all I want to say about the Catholic Church hierarchy is nothing but scum. They're globalist scum. The hierarchy, the Vatican, they're pushing for open borders. And as far as the parents of the students in that school in Kentucky, they should demand that the school administration be summarily fired.
Okay, well, there's been a development there, and we're going to get to that in a little bit later in the talking
Thank
points.
you, Mike.
All right, but there's been a bit of a change. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and we got another caller waiting on the line. So we'll get to that just as soon as we're back from these words from our sponsors. Stay tuned. More is coming.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com, or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And now the former president of Ecuador is getting his moment before the media, basically saying it is impossible to rule out U.S.-backed military action in Venezuela. This thing is moving so fast. And I think the U.S. is putting pedal to the metal because they're concerned that there's going to be opposition among the American people. What, another war? You haven't finished the ones you've already got, and you want another war. And who's going to pay for it? Of course, we all know who's going to pay for the war. We know who's going to fight it, too. Your kids. It really is out of control. All right, back to the phones here. Andrea in Oklahoma, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, aloha. You had indicated that Florida is passing, or have they passed, that it's a jailable offense if you say anything negative against Israel?
Yeah.
So they passed it?
Well, no, it's under consideration by the legislature, but given the highly Jewish presence in the population down there, it's probably going to pass.
Okay, now what is that? I mean, you're aware of the no-hide law, I'm sure.
Yes.
And what it means once they are able to get so many states on board with that, and it was passed really bizarre on Christmas or something when nobody else was there but 3 people. How do you see that coming? I mean, and by the way, I just saw you from yesterday, and you've lost so much weight. You're looking so tiny.
Well, I'm holding steady. I'm holding steady at about 160. And, again, it took me 2 years to lose the weight. And the reason the weight is staying off is because over those 2 years, I simply changed my eating habits. And that's the key to making a diet work. I mean, you should never crash the weight off and starve yourself down to your target weight because it doesn't change your eating habits. And you just go back to eating what you were eating before in the amount you were eating before, and the weight will come right back on.
Well, you're looking very well and very slim and trim.
Thank you.
But and getting back to that idea, how do you see this affecting that law that needs to be repealed, which I've called my representatives on to see about repealing it, and they all act like they're totally unaware of it and that it doesn't exist at all?
Well, I don't. Well, we're talking about laws being passed at the state level. So if you're calling your congressional representative, they may well indeed be unaware of what's going on. But there has been a push a couple of times to pass such a law at the national level, but it always fails. Like I said, this is going to wind up at the Supreme Court. And, even given the makeup of the Supreme Court, I think it would be just a travesty for them to say, yes, there is now an Israeli exception to the First Amendment, because that'll be the camel's nose under the tent. Next, we'll have a vaccine exemption, a GMO exemption, and so forth and so on.
Now, does that also mean, like when George Soros, and he's Jewish, that if we were to say anything negative about him, that we could probably see some prison time and so on and so forth?
I'm not sure, if we're talking about a national law, it depends on the scope. I mean, the Florida law only applies to schools, at least now. And, it's very vaguely written, and it says you can't single out Israel for criticism, which is code speak for if you're going to criticize Israel, you have to also criticize Palestine equally.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I'm going to disappoint some of your listeners. You all kept saying Trump. You said it. I said it. Trump was a disappointment. But come on now. The dude is behind a coup in Venezuela, and he even now isn't he canceling the State of the Union into the distant future? I mean,
he's basically caved in on that. He's postponing the State of the Union until the government shutdown ends. And frankly, on that one, he folded up like a lawn chair. And
he sold us out for a couple shekels, Mike. He's just crap now.
No,
I mean,
he just showed once again he's actually a weak leader. He can't stand his ground. And Pelosi is doing a little victory dance around the podium at the House of Representatives that she's showed that she's Butch and Donald Trump isn't. This was all about political points, and Trump folded, threw in his cards.
But it makes us look like fools who supported him, because everything he ran on is nothing's going on. Like what? Like it's 2019 already.
Yes,
he's unelectable. I think at this point.
Yeah,
like,
I'm afraid that you're right. I can't see unless a miracle were to happen and a new Donald Trump were to emerge in the next month. He's a one-term president, and there are now allegations that he's not really taking the job seriously. That he just wanted to say that he got to be president and he gets to sit in the Oval Office and he gets to do a lot of press conferences and travel around to rallies. And he's just letting the deep state machine run the country.
Do you realize we're all being laughed at, right? Like we're played the fools. And Mike, I got to respond to that caller about the segregation yesterday because I know you were trying to get involved with him. You want to be segregated with Nancy Pelosi, Clintons, the Bushes, Mitch McConnells, and the Paul Ryans, and to the blacks that are calling in. I don't think you want to be segregated with, Whoopi Goldberg, Cory Booker, and the Obamas. There's a divide and conquer going on here, Mike, and it's coming to your show. You see that, right? I mean, there's like some. You know what I mean? There's just some kind of. I mean, come on, people.
No, in hindsight, I should have shut him down a lot earlier. The problem was I was multitasking and, I wasn't paying as close attention to him as I should have, and I should have shut him down a lot sooner because callers like that are being sent into the show to try and damage our brand, as it were. And we've gotten lots of them, and it's not just racism and segregation, but saying, the Jews are bad and this is bad. And again, it's part of a deliberate propaganda campaign to try and harm the independent media.
Yeah, I'm a white Catholic from New Jersey, Mike, and I have to say, Clinton bombed Yugoslavia. He started a lot of the wars. The Bush was white. He started the wars. Obama was black, started the war. This is not about black, white, Asian, Hispanic. It's about, globalism, imperialism versus nationalism. This is what it's about, people. And everybody need to, really do some basic research before you get all, involved in just screaming one side or the other and what's going on, because you're doing a disservice to the show and to yourself if you don't do any basic research. But
yes.
Everybody knows calling the show what's going on, and they know what's going on in France, with the yellow vest. It's about elitism, people are tired of it.
Yes.
It's just, I hope people on calling into the show gets a little more enlightened. Thanks, Mike. Have a good show.
Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Daniel in Texas. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Daniel, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I hear you now.
Hey, Mike, how you doing today, man? The reason I'm calling is multifaceted, but I'll try to keep it quick. I understand that you are not you're an atheist. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm just coming at this from the completely other end of the spectrum. I'm just literally curious. I'm not really trying to make a point, but at the point at which the petrodollar fails and the people that are currently managing our financial system worldwide and mandating this global empire that we currently sit on top of, I do wonder at what point. How long will the shekel be instituted as the main, the new petrodollar before will atheists regret taking the mark? Or it's just such a fascinating
Well,
thing.
I don't think the shekel is going to be. The globalists have already proposed a global currency, which is going to be called the globo, and it's modeled on the euro, and that's what they're getting ready to try and promote if they succeed in their plans. Personally, it looks to me like it's starting to fall apart.
Mr. Rivera, I got to say, for the first time in my life, I really hope that you're right and I'm wrong.
Well, it's time will solve that mystery, is all I can say.
Amen. Thanks for taking my call, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we're going to get back and do some news here. Remember the Integrity Initiative? Cute little name, was out there claiming to basically be out there guarding against Russian propaganda and fake news. And then it turned out to be, it was its own propaganda operation. And as of right now, they've temporarily, they say, shut down their website. Partly because WikiLeaks has gotten in there and they have downloaded vast amounts of data as to just what the Integrity Initiative has been doing. And a lot of it is very nefarious. They have been targeting all kinds of politicians who are nationalists and populists. And so they've shut their website down, which, they may be scared. They're exposed here now. A little bit of good news. Okay. 10 days ago, U.S. citizen Marzia Hashimi was arrested at the St. Louis Lambert Airport. She was on her way to visit an ill brother. She was transferred to FBI custody. And yesterday, she was finally released, and she's never been charged with a crime. Supposedly, she was held as a material witness. Now, she's a journalist and an anchor for Iran's Press TV, and it drew a lot of international condemnation. First of all, about freedom of the press, about trying to poke Iran one more time, and about the abuse of the concept of it being a material witness. But she is now out. I presume that she's visiting her sick brother and will be on her way back to Iran in the very, very near future. Over in Russia, they have basically put on display their latest missile, the Novator 9M729. It's called the SSC-8 by NATO. And of course, the United States is claiming this missile violates the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, which bans either side from stationing short and intermediate range land-based missiles in Europe. Russia is denying it, saying the missile's range is too short, puts it outside the treaty, and has accused the United States of inventing a false pretext to get out of the INF, which is what the U.S. wants to do so they can start developing, the United States can start developing new nuclear missiles. Now, Washington has said it's going to pull out of the INF unless Russia verifiably destroys this whole new missile system, which, of course, Russia's not going to do that. They've invested quite a bit of work and money into it, and from their point of view, it is within. It's fully compliant with the INF Treaty. Its maximum range is 298 miles. Now, the Russians offered to let the United States look at this missile. Come on over, take a look. Satisfy it for yourself. The United States said no. The Russian Defense Ministry said diplomats from the United States, Britain, France, and Germany have been invited to inspect the missile. They all declined to attend. We don't need to look at the facts. We have already decided what the story is here. Anyway, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov told a news briefing that the United States has made it clear through diplomatic channels that its decision to exit the INF is final and is not open to any kind of dialogue. So we're pulling out of the treaty, and the bombs are going to get built again. All right, let's take another phone call here. Joe in Tennessee, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, it seems to be like everybody's kind of running me down like I'm some kind of a set-up government guy. I'm sitting here in the woods in Tennessee. I'm a 9/11 protester. I'm not some kind of deep state mole trying to run your radio show down. So I just wanted you to know that you guys, I think, misunderstood what I was saying yesterday about segregation. I was trying to say is that in white cities like in cities like Washington D.C., white kids from Kentucky are not going to be treated fairly in a liberal state like that, and they ought to just stay in Kentucky and Tennessee, wherever, because just like the whites in South Africa, you're a mark, you're a target, and I'm sorry if people got offended by that, but I don't see why everybody's kind of like all over me about how wrong I am.
Let me just insert a comment. Let me insert a comment. If you had been this calm and reasonable yesterday, we wouldn't be having a problem. But you got into like this real rant about those people, and I think that's what set a lot of folks off. And I misunderstood you because I thought you were talking specifically about those what they call themselves, the Black Israeli Hebrews. The Black Israelites who were harassing those Catholic kids. And a lot of other people thought that you were trying to tarnish the black population in general. So I'm glad you called back in, and I'm glad that you basically clarified what you were saying and did so in a much more reasonable and calm fashion, because calm, reasonable discussion is really what we need right now. There's too many people running around just with this hysterical rhetoric that's blasting everybody.
Well, I know, but I mean, it's hard to I'm a Catholic guy. I went to Catholic school, and I see them demonizing a bunch of school kids. It's hard not to get passionate and angry about it. So, I don't understand, I understand people that are calm and all that, but there comes a time when you got to get angry, and maybe if people took it the wrong way, I apologize for that. But, if you're not angry and if you don't stand up sometimes, then it almost gives license to people to keep going further. I don't know when they're going to stop.
Well, unfortunately, Joe, we're at a commercial break here. I just want to say this. When you let yourself get angry, you start making bad mistakes, and you're on the path to losing. Anyway, Joe, thank you for the phone call. We got to take a break for commercials. We'll be right back.
I'm getting older and noticing that my body just doesn't work as well as it used to. So I like to keep fit as possible by hitting the gym a few times a week. Recently, I started having a nagging bicep pain, and it got so bad I couldn't even lift the weights. When I was complaining about it to a friend, he told me about Angioprim. He said chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in veins and arteries that may cause blockages. After just 1 week of taking Angioprim, the pain was gone, and now I'm back in the gym full strength. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. So to learn more, go to angioprim.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com, or talk to a trained consultant. Call Angioprim toll-free at 877-882-7221. You'll feel better with more energy. Call 877-882-7221 or go to the website angioprim.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite, should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we're going to close the phone lines for a little while because I got a lot of news that I really need to get to. We'll probably open up the phone lines again in hour number 3 and let you call on in with your opinions. But I really want to get through some of this important stuff here. Anyway, China is basically defending Russia. They're responding to the publication of the new U.S. National Intelligence Strategy, in which China and Russia are referred to as adversary countries against the United States. Oh, goody, we got the Cold War back. We got the Cold War back. And basically, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Hua Chunying has said, we've taken note of the wording that the United States mentioned in the updated version of the U.S. National Intelligence Strategy, which has just been published in the United States. The United States has issued a series of reports which present unfounded accusations against Russia and China. What, you mean the United States government would lie? Oh, say it is not so. Chunying urged the United States to make further efforts to strengthen mutual trust between the two countries and maintain international peace and stability. Well, that's not what the United States government wants. It's not what the military-industrial complex wants. They want war and chaos. One of the better Tom Clancy books, when he was just first starting on out, was called Red Storm Rising. And you can probably still find it in your used bookstore, or maybe it's still being sold in the brand new bookstores. And it's basically about a hypothetical war between Russia and the United States. And it basically begins with a monstrous fire in Russia that destroys a major oil facility and results in an oil shortage. And the Kremlin, the Politburo, gets together and says, well, we're going to have to replace that oil from someplace. And the financial people are saying, we do not have the money to buy the oil we need. And then one of the other members of the Politburo says, then we must take it. And in another case of life imitates art, we seem to be in that same situation. The United States wants oil. They want to control the oil. They want, rare earth minerals out of Afghanistan. But they don't have the money to buy it. They can't engage in trade. So they're going down the same path that Tom Clancy theorized for the Russians in Red Storm Rising. And it should be worth noting that in Red Storm Rising, the Russians lose. So something you may want to take to heart. Over at the United Nations, Antonio Guterres is saying that ties between the U.S., Russia, and China are essentially dysfunctional. They're just out of kilter. And Guterres said, we no longer live in a bipolar or unipolar world, but we're not yet in a multipolar world. Power relations are becoming unclear. And he is saying countries should be working together, which he's absolutely right. And of course, that's what the United Nations is supposed to be about. Everybody working together, peace through commerce. Over in China, the U.S. Navy has once again sailed their vessels through the Taiwan Strait despite Beijing's past warnings, insisting it's a freedom of navigation exercise and we're going to cross the Taiwan Strait because it's in accordance with international law. It is a provocation. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, what is the United States doing all the way over there on the Western Pacific? We have our own coastline. We got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Now, over at the Pentagon, they are claiming that Russian air defenses are changing the U.S. calculus abroad. Now, over the last 2 years, we've been screaming about claimed Russian election meddling and disinformation campaigns. The Kremlin has been busy establishing air superiority in places where U.S. aircraft used to be able to operate with impunity. And now the Pentagon is sounding the alarm, according to this new report in the Wall Street Journal. And they're screaming about Russia's S-400 anti-aircraft missile system. And that they're admitting this is a potent air defense system. And they're describing it as Russia is erecting a new Iron Curtain in the form of a series of air defenses stretching from the Arctic to the Middle East. Well, if there was a country in the world that just seemed to be intent on invading everybody they came across, wouldn't you want to build up your defenses? Would make sense to me. This one's going to wake up a lot of people. This is from military.com. And apparently the National Commission on Military, National, and Public Service, which was created in 2016, is weighing whether or not women should now be required to register for the Selective Service System. Men already are. Now, there is no draft yet, but the purpose of registering young men is so that they are available to be drafted almost immediately. So, according to military.com, this commission released a report that basically has some radical proposals in there, including registering women. Supposedly, they included on the list whether the draft system or the selective service system should be scrapped entirely. That one's never going to fly, not with all the wars we've got going. And the way things are going, yeah, they're seriously talking about drafting women. It's not just your sons, it's your daughters they're coming after. Over in France, one of their TV stations, France 4, has created a game show for teenagers that is supposed to be teaching children about Russian fake news. And the show is called Escape News. It was launched last year as an escape room type game for teenagers. And the program has a motto, avoid the traps of the info, but the way it's doing it has been called into question. In fact, much of the program seems to be fake news itself. But it looks like they're trying to basically get to the teenagers before the teenagers get to their web browsers and find out what's really going on. I think it was Senator Hiram Johnson who said truth is the first casualty of war. And we're seeing that right now. There's a war on the truth. There's a war on anybody's point of view other than that of the war machine here. All right, domestic politics, and I'm sure you've probably heard by now, the Senate voted down both bills that were intended to get the government going again. And the Republican-backed proposal and the Democrat-backed proposal, neither one got the 60 votes needed to pass. So the shutdown continues, and Trump's border wall remains unfunded. Everybody's screaming politics. Apparently, there was some crossover. Over in the House of Representatives, there was a bill introduced to give federal employees one of their missing paychecks. That got voted down by 222 Democrats, including the Democrat who first proposed the measure, Nita M. Lowey, Democrat of New York. So word has gone out from Petty Pelosi, there'll be no budging. There'll be no giving on this at all. No compromise. She wants total capitulation by Donald Trump. And here's, as we mentioned earlier on one of the callers, President Trump has now postponed the State of the Union and says he will address Congress after the shutdown ends. He basically folded up like a lawn chair on this one. And the optics are really bad. It's going to send the message to the American people that Trump is weak, that he can't stand up to Nancy Pelosi. And of course, Nancy Pelosi is dancing a victory dance around the podium in the House of Representatives. This was all about political points. Trump should have just given the speech on the correct day from the Oval Office. And I'm sorely disappointed. He just keeps surrendering on everything. Syria pullout, State of the Union speech. I'm glad he's still standing firm on that wall. But we're getting into this irresistible force and the immovable object between Trump and Pelosi. And Trump, based on his track record, I'm beginning to be very worried that he might cave. All right. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi is already starting to load up various House committees, and she has loaded up the House Oversight Committee with some of the most radical Democrats possible, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Rashida Tlaib, and basically she's sicking them on Trump. This House Oversight Committee, it provides a platform for these Democrats to basically start investigating everything about the Trump administration. Some of the other people who've been named to that committee is Representative Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts and Representative Ro Khanna of California. And all they're going to be thinking about is, we've got to go after Trump, we've got to go after Trump, we've got to go after Trump. Meanwhile, there is a group of moderate Democrats that are trying to push for Nancy Pelosi to cut some kind of a deal with President Trump to end the government shutdown. And they're saying it's time for a bipartisan solution on this. And Pelosi's going to stand firm. I'm making that prediction right now. She's not interested even what her own party, her own representation in Congress. She's out for blood. She wants Trump's head on a spike on this issue. Meanwhile, Congressman Collin Peterson is breaking with his colleagues, urging them to give Trump the money for the border wall. Now, he's a Democrat from Minnesota, and he's saying he'd give the president the entire amount he's seeking. But here's the ringer. He added stipulations to ensure it goes to its intended purpose. He says he wants to basically guarantee the wall gets put where it needs to be. And he says, we're going to build that wall anyway at some point. Let's let it go for now. And again, it's not a full wall. It's just a short section of the wall, and it's really not going to stop the illegal immigrants who will simply be driven by the human smugglers down to where the wall ends, and they'll walk over, or they'll climb over. There's a video that surfaced of something like 100 illegal immigrants entering the United States because the people smuggler who brought them up to the fence had ladders. Just put a ladder, put it on the other side, put a mattress on the concertina wire, and they just scrambled on over. Ultimately, the wall is not going to work. Trump needs to enforce Title VIII. All of these people who are employing or housing or transporting these illegal immigrants, they're in violation of Title VIII, and they should be arrested and prosecuted, especially all of these mayors and governors of sanctuary cities. And these provisions of Title VIII carry serious jail time. We've got to cut off the lure of the free stuff. More about that later on after the economic news here, because there's some developments there as well. Now, U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said that he doesn't understand why some federal workers are turning to food banks and homeless shelters to feed themselves and their families. And he said they should just get loans. You know, they might have to pay a little bit of interest, but the banks and credit unions will be making credit available to them. Now, this guy is worth $2.9 billion, and I think he just had his let them eat cake moment. I mean, that statement shows how clearly out of touch this guy is here. All right, getting back on over to the Covington students Make America Great here. Alyssa Milano, who's an actress and a leftist, basically is smearing the millions of Americans who support Donald Trump, saying that the red MAGA hat is the new white hood, meaning Make America Great Again is now being equated to racism. It's kind of weird. When did patriotism become racism? But that's what she's out there pushing. That was her response to the incident at the Lincoln Memorial here. Over at CNN, one of their commentators, Angela Rye, saying that she was triggered seeing the high school junior Nick Sandmann wearing a MAGA hat because it's as maddening and frustrating and triggering for me to look as a KKK hood. All right, well, Angela, don't look. Problem solved. If things are triggering you, don't look at them anymore. But no, what she's trying to do is sell the idea that we are supposed to be triggered by the MAGA hat. We're supposed to find it offensive. No, I don't. I don't find anything offensive with the idea of making America great again. In large part, it's been part of what this show and website has been about. For the quarter century, the website's been running. For the decade that I've been doing radio, it's about finding a way to restore America to the republic with a democratically elected government that it used to be, with strong manufacturing, good agriculture, opportunity for all. What is wrong with that? Why is that all of a sudden racist? And by the way, as a footnote, Angela, back in 1991, Bill Clinton was saying, "Make America Great Again." How soon they forget here. And I'm not the only one saying this. Over at Health and Money News, they've got an article saying patriotism has become racism. And if you question anything coming out of the left wing, the knee-jerk response, oh, you're a racist. You think we need a wall on the border with Mexico? Well, you must be a racist. You say that Al Sharpton is a tax-evading demagogue? Then you're a racist. In fact, you can't criticize anybody who's black no matter what they do because it's obviously racism. Now they're trying to claim that anybody who supports President Trump is racist. Or anybody promoting traditional American values. Oh, you're a bunch of racists here. And it ignores the fact that a lot of patriotic black people are also wearing Make America Great hats. The left considers these black supporters of Donald Trump to be Uncle Toms or traitors to the left-wing strategy. Okay. The other thing that you're always hearing from leftists is this phrase, you know, that's not who we are. You know, when we talk about the border wall, that's not who we are. We're a nation of open borders. No, we are not. We are a nation of laws like Title VIII. And America had values before this whole PC leftist situation came along. And these leftists are not speaking for our American values. They're trying to impose new ones. They're trying to suppress America as it used to be and replace it with something that they think is a liberal utopia. But I'm old enough to remember when America really was great. You know, we believed in working for what we got and getting what we work for. We believed in fair treatment for everybody. We believed in justice without the prefix social. And we believe people should be allowed to pursue their happiness as long as they don't hurt others in the process. We believe that most people could and should decide what kind of light bulb, what kind of toilet, and how big a serving of soda they want without the government forcing a designated decision down everybody's throat. That's the America that we used to live in. That was an America where we really did have a lot of freedom. And the liberals, who are still buying into that nonsense from Margaret Mead and her book Coming of Age in Samoa, are intent that the government control every single aspect of your life in the belief that it will turn you into a happy person. And by the way, when you look at the liberals today, how many of them actually look happy and contented to you? They're always frothing at the mouth. They've got wild eyes. They're angry. They're spoiling for a fight. Doesn't look like liberalism's working for them. Anyway, over at Davos, John Kerry actually called for President Trump to resign. And this was basically speaking from the stage. And Kerry said the president doesn't take his position seriously and he should resign. So, yeah, they're after him. And again, every time Trump caves in on something, whether it's the Syria withdrawal or the State of the Union, it actually supports Kerry's point of view. He's not serious about the job. He just wanted it as a fashion accessory. And I'm sorry, I supported him in 2016. I worked very, very hard to support him in 2016, mostly to keep Hillary Clinton out of that White House. But I'm very disappointed in him now. And the only way I would support him in 2020 is if Hillary ran again. And I'm going to be very upfront and honest about that. Meanwhile, attorney Robert Barnes, who's out there in Los Angeles, is basically threatening to sue the New York Times on behalf of the Covington Catholic kids. And he wants to sue for the obvious libel. Now, there is a little bit of an uphill battle on that, and it's something called absence of malice. Because in order to seek damages from the New York Times, they would have to prove that the New York Times intended to mislead their readers. And that's going to be a real, real trick. The New York Times defense is going to be, we screwed up. We messed up. There's no question about it. We should have waited for all the facts to come on out, but we didn't mean any harm. The Hillary defense. So Nathan Phillips is out there. And by the way, the corporate media is still pushing the original story in a lot of places. Only a few media outlets have backed off and said, yeah, we messed up. It wasn't what we said it was. But they're giving Nathan Phillips microphones and cameras. They're still putting him out there, and he's out there, you know. There was this huge video where Phillips is saying that he forgives this Covington student. Then he launches into a tirade of something like 15 different things that this student did, that Sandman did. But I forgive him. He's trying to play, high ground here, but Chief Running Mouth is still pushing his agenda here. And the problem is he keeps changing his story, keeps getting it wrong. The original story with that carefully edited clip was that the Covington students had basically surrounded Nathan Phillips to prevent him from leaving the area. And of course, the unedited tape shows it's exactly the opposite. The kids were just standing there waiting for a bus, and Phillips came on up to them. So Phillips has changed his story, saying that, well, he was going to play the role of peacemaker. He was trying to get between the students and the black individuals who, he says, the students were attacking the black kids, the black Israelite Hebrews, whatever they call themselves here. Now, the corporate media has tried to hedge their bets because, as you know, there was a big stink over Nathan Phillips claiming to be a Vietnam veteran. And so now the media is saying, well, he was a Vietnam time veteran. That's what he meant, that he was, served in the Marines while Vietnam was happening, even though he didn't go, he was a refrigerator mechanic. But another videotape has surfaced of Nathan Phillips claiming to be a Vietnam veteran, not a Vietnam Times veteran. In fact, there's a video where he says, when I come home, those times I got spit on and called baby killer. The man lies like a drug. We'll be right back after these few words.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. the network thanks you.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. So, who are these black Hebrew Israelites that basically provoked this whole Lincoln Memorial brouhaha? And apparently, CBC did an interview with an expert on the black Hebrew Israelites, John Jackson. And he basically revealed what their mindset is. Now, there's no central structure to this church. There's a lot of different groups of BHI. But he says their ultimate goal is to bring about a race war that will cleanse the planet and bring Jesus back. They say we're doing all this stuff, we're being as provocative as we are on the street corner because we're really trying to foment the kind of ultimate clash between good and evil, between God's chosen people and the darned and the imposters, so that we can bring about the second coming and a new world. Now, a central core belief of the black Hebrew Israelites, and the reason for the name is they're convinced they are the actual descendants of the biblical Hebrews. And that when Jesus comes on back following the race war, that he's going to be extra nice to them. Over at CNN, one of their commentators, Powers, is trying to play victim again. Says she's removing the Twitter app from her phone after she was harassed for criticizing the Covington students. Well, again, if you went with the wrong story, which CNN did, you're due some criticism here. But basically, the lesson that we take away from all of this is this turned into a witch hunt. One carefully edited video and a claim on social media, and it just exploded. And it revealed a very dark underbelly of the current American culture. That we just leapt onto this thing and said, oh, we've got to demonize these kids, the MAGA hats or the new KKK hood, and just going with it. Anyway, now, little bit of good news here. We had been talking about how the Covington Catholic High School, the bishop who's the administrator of the school, had basically stood firm. They had issued all of these condemnations of the students and said these students are not, their behavior is inconsistent with the teachings of Cathol and so forth. And no statements following the revelation that the video was taken completely out of context. Well, that's now changed. All of the criticisms that had been up at their website have now been taken down, and the Diocese of Covington has released a new statement in which they announced both the temporary closing of Covington Catholic High School for safety reasons, and they are launching a third-party investigation into just what did happen over there at the Lincoln Memorial. And that, I think, is a really good thing. Back in Washington, D.C., Representative Sheila Jackson Lee has resigned from the top post of the Congressional Black Caucus following a former employee's accusation that she was fired for reporting a rape. So there was this lawsuit filed by a former aide to Representative Lee alleging she was fired after reporting that an employee of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation raped her. And the litigant says that Lee deliberately fired her after she let it be known she was planning to sue the foundation. Now, Lee has stayed relatively quiet on the issue, but that didn't stop the pressure on her to step down. And according to the New York Times, she's not only stepping away from the head of the Congressional Black Caucus, but one other powerful position inside the Congress as well. So she got knocked down a few pegs here. As you know, Monday, Senator Kamala Harris formally announced her campaign for the presidency in 2020, which didn't really surprise a lot of people. She's out there claiming that she's rejecting corporate funding, but boy, is she out there already schmoozing the mega donors, and it does seem like she's basically following Hillary Clinton's playbook. And, Harris is actually rather unpopular among Democratic and left-leaning voters. And a lot of liberal pundits have blamed her unpopularity on expressed racism and sexism. But apparently Harris is actually less popular among African American than Caucasian Democrats. Now, do you remember Cory Booker? During the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, he leaked committee confidential documents to try and build more pressure on Kavanaugh to be rejected or step down. That was a violation of the rules. And there was a complaint filed with the Senate Ethics Panel. They've just come on out and said, well, we're not really going to do anything. Judicial Watch basically had filed the complaint, and the Senate Ethics Committee, specifically the Chief Counsel and Staff Director, Deborah Sue Mayer, came on out and said no further action is appropriate in response to Booker's unauthorized release of the confidential documents. So they are, in fact, protecting their own. Meanwhile, Roy Moore is saying to expect Kavanaugh-style smear tactics used against the GOP in 2020. We'll be right back after these words from our sponsors.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it. at aroutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And I guess we can go ahead and open up the phone lines now. I've gotten through a lot of the important stuff. There's still important stuff to come, though. Remember Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal lawyer and fixer, who's turned on Trump, and he was scheduled to appear before the House Oversight Committee, which has now, of course, been repopulated with people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He has now announced he's indefinitely postponing his congressional testimony, according to his lawyer. Cohen was set to appear before the House committee on February 7th at the invitation of Representative Elijah Cummings and the chairman of the committee, but according to the New York Times, has backed out, supposedly because of ongoing threats against his family. This, again, according to his lawyer, Lanny Davis. And Davis cited Trump's verbal attacks on Mr. Cohen on some of his relatives. Now, I think what is really going on here is this is the fallout from that embarrassing BuzzFeed story. Now, if you remember, BuzzFeed came out with this bombshell story that Michael Cohen had testified before Robert Mueller's investigation that Trump ordered him to lie to Congress. And that story just blew up in everybody's face. And it may be that Cohen doesn't want to have to talk about what really happened, but he's going to have to anyway, because the Oversight Committee has now issued a subpoena compelling him to show up. Okay. As you know, out in Los Angeles, there's a major teachers' strike. Last April, there was a teachers' strike in Oklahoma, and it looks like their legislature is getting ready to pass a whole bunch of bills aimed to punish and limit future walkouts by the teachers. And of course, if they get away with that, it'll be against various other groups. And again, it is an affront to the First Amendment here. Okay, we have a caller on the line, Mo in Florida. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Are you there?
Yeah.
Mike, you're one of the smartest guys I know. You know, I love calling into your show, and I never really miss it unless something comes up. But I think this whole thing is just so obvious. It just falls into this, Saul Alinsky's 13 tried and true rules for creating, for radicals. And they just got everybody fighting against everybody. And it's just, it's so obvious to me. You got blacks against whites, well, that's an old one.
Yes.
But, they even got men against women and, 5,000 different genders. And it's amazing at how this thing works. And, this is another thing that I know you've talked about before. Not the people of Israel, but the Zionist control freaks that run that country. They got if you're fighting amongst yourselves, there's no way you can unify and even identify a problem. You know what I'm saying? They got us doing exactly what they want. It's so obvious. Am I wrong?
Well, again, a lot of people are looking at what's going on in our country today and say, what is all this stuff? Like, anybody can use anybody else's restroom, gender fluidity. That I'm still sick about that story about this couple that is going to send their 5-year-old for gender reassignment surgery. I mean, that just makes me sick. And it's the kind of decadence that signals the dissolution of a society. You saw bizarre behavior like this back leading to the fall of Rome. I mean, what's going on in this country today makes Rome under Caligula look like a tea party in comparison. It's just wildly out of control. It's about keeping us divided and conquered against each other. It's about keeping us in a state of disconnect from what's really going on around us. They've invested a lot of money and a lot of propaganda in this. And I don't know how successful it's being. because it's hard to get the measure of what ordinary Americans are thinking, because you can't trust the polling that's coming from the corporate media. They're lying in the first place. They're going to lie about the polls. But my sense, talking to people around here, and that's what you should all be doing. Forget the polls, forget the corporate media. Just talk to people around you and say, what do you think about all this stuff? And get a read, as to what people around you are thinking. And my read is that Americans are getting rid of all this nonsense. We know that trust in the government is at an all-time low. Trust at the corporate media is at an all-time low. And I think throwing another war on top of the woodpile right now could be the straw that breaks the camel's back, because Americans are war weary. We've been at war all over the world for going on 18 years. We're still stuck in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen. 40% of the nations, according to National Geographic, the United States currently has military in 40% of the world's nations. And I think the American people are tired of living under a wartime economy. And I think they're tired of being lied to now that they know that they're being lied to. And I think they're tired of all this just absolute nonsense about gender fluidity and so forth.
Yeah, that's exactly why people call into your show and follow your show, Mike. And I hope everybody keeps this thing going, because it gives you a voice. I mean, okay, I do talk to my neighbors, and most of them don't, they're either religious Christians, and they don't know what the heck's going on. But the bottom line is, yes, it's divide and conquer. This Venezuelan thing is so freaking bizarre. I mean, what the heck did other than Ron Paul and guys like you? I campaigned for Ron Paul for both elections, and really busted my butt. And I remember when Trump came out and said he is a good man, but he ain't got a chance, because it does make you want to give up. I'm not going to give up, Mike. I'm a patriot like you.
Yep. But
it does make you sometimes just want to throw up your hands and say, "The hell with it. Where can I move?" But there's nowhere to go.
No, that's the problem with the world war. The whole world is at war. No matter where you're going, there's going to be landmines and bombs and rapidly moving metal projectiles passing by your ear.
Well, Mike, I tell you one thing. I know you never had kids, but that's a damn shame, because you'd have been one hell of a father. And I wish I'd have grown up with you as my dad. I'll tell you that, and that's all I got to say.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I find that very, very flattering here, and we're going to let you go. And interestingly enough, somebody just posted a story to whatreallyhappened.com. This is from patriotrising.com, and it points out the rather odd timing and why there may be such a rush to get U.S. military into Venezuela, because apparently just a few days before the U.S. attempted the overthrow. Remember, there was an attempted military coup that fell apart. Now they're out there just putting pedal to the metal. Apparently, Venezuela had agreed to allow Russia to mine gold in Venezuela. And that may have been what sparked this whole thing off. Okay, CNN is now reporting that the Trump administration is preparing a draft proclamation to declare a national emergency on the southern border. And apparently the White House pool, the journalists, has just been called in rather unexpectedly. So there's going to be an announcement there. All right, let's switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, what I want to talk about, Mike, is somewhat related to what apparently Trump's about to talk to about the southern border. We just had a teacher strike in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Last for 6 days. And part of what the teachers were trying to do was the higher the attendance rate at the schools, the more money the schools get from LA Unified. So it worked out that the schools were down to about 10% of student attendance. So the LA Unified lost millions and millions of dollars. And that's one of the reasons why they settled. And I do some work for LA Unified, and I talked to many of the teachers, and I tried to tell them that this is the last hurrah that you'll get. They settled the strike. It was for less than they wanted, but, they did get a raise. But I said, well, look, unions are dead. It started with NAFTA. Citizens United absolutely killed it. There's no way that unions can keep up with the kind of contributions that the corporations and the billionaires have. But the other thing is, the reason why they're striking is class size, and they couldn't afford, they can't afford to service the population that they have, because, and this is 10 years old, 30% of LA Unified enrollment are the children of illegal aliens. And I said, as long as that keeps going on, right?
Yes.
This will not, it's never going to stop. It will just, those classes, they went down from 35 to 25. They're going to go up to 35 in 3 years. And you know what? The union won't be able to handle it. And by the way, I said, one of the things is, where are they going to make up the shortfall for all the attendance, lack of attendance, right? The millions and millions of dollars. They can't get it from the local population. They're going to have to get it from the feds.
Yes.
So LA Unified and Garcetti and all these guys, the mayor, are going to have to go to the education department under Donald Trump and say, we need more money. We need a lot more money, and we want you to give it to us. And he's going to say, well, you know what? Why should I give money and take money away when you've got this sanctuary law? And that's the problem here, is we've got all these illegals in school that cost more. They have special textbooks, they free lunches, free breakfast, bilingual teachers, and all that. It costs more than the average student. But, and you want me to then make up for this when you've been ignoring federal law, and that's the problem. And you want me to take it from districts around the country that aren't ignoring federal law, do not have that problem, to give it to you guys. And it kind of resonated with the people that I've talked with. But what do you think about that?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, a big problem with the LA school system, and yeah, part of it is they love having the illegal immigrants and the illegal immigrant children in the classroom because it supposedly entitles them to more money. The problem is the money isn't there. It's costing the school district money that just does not exist. And you're absolutely right. When you go to people and talk about this issue, and you talk about all the freebies that are going on out to the illegal immigrants and say, does it make sense for the government to take stuff away from the legal American citizens to give to the illegal American citizens? And of course, the liberals are going to say, oh, well, we have to help them. We have to take care of them. You're just being a racist. No, I'm not being a racist. Illegal isn't a race. We've got to take care of our people first and foremost. Some of these illegal immigrants are getting benefits that legal American kids can't. And it's really just gone on way, way too long.
Well, not only that, Mike, it's again, this is a sanctuary city and a sanctuary state. And they are ignoring obviously the immigration laws, the federal immigration laws that, by the way, California's legislators and senators had a chance to vote for and apparently lost, and now are not abiding by that legislative decision. But they're, in doing so, they're going to be robbing other districts and states and cities that aren't sanctuary cities in order to make up for this educational shortfall. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's again,
this open borders is costing our entire nation at all levels: social services, education, medical. The fact of the matter is that the U.S. government is spending more for the medical care for these illegal immigrant women to pop out their anchor babies than it would cost to build that wall. This is a completely messed up policy.
Yeah, something like County USC in downtown Los Angeles has more births in it than all the other hospitals in LA County.
Yeah,
and it's because that's where they all come to drop their anchor babies, and more births than all the other hospitals put together. So it's really ridiculous, and we won't have a country. It'll be interesting to see what Trump says on this. Did they say he was declaring an emergency?
Well, CNN is reporting they prepared a draft bill to declare an emergency at the southern border. And the press pool has been called on in unexpectedly. So we'll see what's going to happen. Now, Trump was just on the air a few minutes ago here on Fox talking about we need to have the wall. So it looks like he's going to try and do an end run around Nancy Pelosi and get his wall by other means.
I wish we'd bring the troops home from Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq and everywhere else and slap them on the border.
Well, we need them not just on the border. We need to basically have them help. And I understand posse comitatus, but the Marine Corps is exempt from that. I think so is the Coast Guard. Let's get those people out there in the heartland and start rounding up these illegal immigrants. They're not supposed to be here. And let's send them back to their home. I mean, we've got 3,000 migrants sitting at that fence just waiting for the first opportunity they can to get on through. I mean, it's that border is a joke here, and the liberals love it. The liberals are openly admitting that they're relying on illegal immigrant voters to hang on to power in 2020, even though illegal immigrants are not allowed to vote. Only legal citizens of this country or naturalized citizens are allowed to vote in our elections.
Well, we both know that doesn't work. But,
no,
it
doesn't work.
I mean,
that was one of the big scandals of 2016, where these Democratic lawyers that were just going from state to state to state, challenging voter ID laws and saying, "Oh, they're absolutely racist, they're unconstitutional," and they succeeded in getting voter ID laws struck down in huge numbers of states. And where those voter ID laws were struck down, Hillary was winning, and where the voter ID laws were kept in place, Trump was winning.
Yeah, Mike, I think I may have mentioned before, I've been a multi-precinct inspector, or actually they call coordinator, here for a couple of presidential elections. And this is a state where it is illegal. It's actually illegal to ask somebody for ID.
That's pretty sick here. Anyway, Peter, I got to let you go. We got to take a commercial break. The phone lines are loaded up. We'll be back with more calls after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Jim in Chicago. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. I have a couple of comments. The first one, the bill that the Republicans attempted to pass today, but it failed. Why didn't Mitch McConnell use the nuclear option? If he did that, the bill would have passed.
You're going to have to ask Mitch McConnell about that one. There's obviously a lot of backroom discussion going on here, and apparently there were some Republican deserters, as it were, who basically voted with the Democrats on this thing. So again, without being privy to some of what's being talked about in the halls of the Capitol building, it's kind of hard to figure out what the motivations are. Mitch McConnell could have exercised that. He may have felt that the Democrats would say, you're cheating, you're cheating, you're cheating.
Well, and the final thing, this is something I don't understand. Since these workers are going to get their money back, why don't you just pay them now?
Well, technically, the money isn't there. I mean, this government goes through this charade every couple of years, where they're trying to hold to a debt ceiling and they need a new spending bill, but I think they're basically trying to make the American people sympathize with those furloughed federal workers. That's going to be a tough sell, I think, for most people, to try and put more pressure on Donald Trump. But I think the pressure is actually that it's time to close that border and stop this influx of the illegal immigrants who are bringing drugs, crime, human trafficking, contagious diseases into our country without any restraint whatsoever.
Right, I would agree with you, and I'm just curious to find out, what is Donald Trump going to do now? You mentioned that he's going to call for an emergency down at the border. What exactly can he do?
Well, if he declares a national emergency down there, there's other funding within the government he can tap into to try and get the border fence built. But until the fence reaches all the way from the Rio Grande to San Diego, it's never going to be effective. And the human smugglers, they're showing up at the fence with very long ladders and just the immigrants are just climbing on over. The only way you're going to stop this problem is to cut off the flow of free stuff, which is what is luring them up here. Right. They want to come up here. They figure they're going to get free stuff. Only a minority of them are actually integrating into our society. The rest of them are kicking on back and just enjoying the welfare and just laughing at the Norteamericanos.
Right, and like you always say, just enforce Title VIII. That's all you have to do. So, well, Michael, you take care.
All right, thanks an awful lot here, and we've got more callers, but I think I'm going to leave them off until after we get into hour number 3 because we're coming up on the station break here. Apparently, Dave Kranzler of Investment Research Dynamics is out there saying stocks do have more to fall. And the current volatility is a sign of instability. So be very cautious of talk about a strong and recovering market. We're going to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And going back to the phones, we're going to talk with George in California. Aloha, George. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Hi, Michael. Before I get to my main point, I want to state, whether people really like it or not, that I'm 100% supporter of the theory of human-caused global swindling. You know, for the last 20 years, the theory of human-caused global warming hasn't really panned out, has it? But
no,
by golly,
it really hasn't.
Don't we have a truckload of data points to support the theory of human-caused global swindling?
We certainly do here. And again, even as we have these really hard freezes and snow on the mainland U.S., the corporate media is still out there saying, oh, well, global warming causes colder winters, which is completely nonsensical.
It's hilarious, actually, at this point. Michael, we may only have 10 or 20 years left to save the planet from human-caused global swindling. I mean, really, we got to look at that problem. So I'm saying to everyone, in 2019, this is my New Year's resolution. I hope this will be everyone's New Year's resolution. Let's handle the truth in 2019. Let's really handle it. So the next time somebody comes out to you and says, tries to proselytize about the dangers of human-caused global warming, tell them that you are totally on board supporting the theory of putting an end to human-caused global swindling. And most people don't like swindling, and that's the way to kind of like maybe start to wake them up to the reality of what's really going down here. Now, my main point isn't about that, but let's look at Donald Trump. At worst, I see him as a weak globalist. He's not a strong globalist, and, he's being forced to be a weak globalist. But I ask you this. If we're going to try and take back America, is it easier to do that when you have a weak globalist in power or a strong globalist? I guess the answer is pretty obvious, isn't it?
Do tell.
So, Like you, I'm disappointed at many of his appointments, Priebus, Bolton, etc. But had he appointed more patriots, Soros, the Clintons, the Rothschilds, they've all got all these deep state puppet masters. They've got billions to allocate to hundreds or thousands of patriots in government to slander them, intimidate, or even add to the Clinton body count. They've just and Donald Trump, he's got his own security to protect him, but he doesn't have enough to protect all these other people.
No.
So how many good people could he really have appointed? I mean, here's the problem. So let's say that, you could actually get some of the government enforcement arm under the Attorney General to arrest some of the culprits that are intimidating the deep state bullies, intimidating or murdering or whatever. You've still got deep state judges. You can hand a get out of free jail card, basically to, any of these deep state bullies or assassins that Trump tries to bring to justice. So what's encouraging is behind the scenes, he's been trying to put constitutionalists back in the courts as judges. And that number of judges that are good has been ramping up. But how can he really do more? How can he really appoint more good people? Unless he's got enough control over the government to be able to bring down the deep state.
Well, he doesn't
That's
have
kind of
that
where we're
control. And when he won the election, I mean, the deep state went into high gear to insulate itself, or actually to cocoon Donald Trump so that he wasn't able to do anything. And again, there were very powerful interests that were at work on him, and Trump has proven to be a very weak leader. He can be manipulated. And I think that's what lies behind his basically de-emphasizing the Vaccine Safety Commission, which Robert Kennedy Jr. is still trying to move forward on, but of course the corporate media is not reporting on that. Trump has dumped the ball on the Election Integrity Commission, just shut it down, handed that to DHS. He's going to pay for that in 2020.
Yeah. It's clear that the deep state is at war with us.
Yes.
War is groups of people organized to attack and loot, all about looting other groups of people. That is what the deep state has been doing to we the people for many decades, as we know, and you've stated it clearly in All Wars Are Bankers' Wars, etc. The war we should be fighting, obviously, is not in Afghanistan or Iran or Libya or Syria. The war we should be fighting, all of us, is the war the deep state is waging against us. And we've got to start doing it. We've got to handle the truth and start doing this. To win a war, strategic sacrifices are a requirement by we the people. So I suggest that we the people put our foot down about building this border wall. Yes, I know it won't stop the free stuff, but it will make a dent in it. If we put our foot down about building this wall and ending this shutdown, we the people could generate the leverage Trump needs to make the rhinos and the dinos, which nobody talks about the dinos, which most of them are these days.
Yes.
Shutting down the rhinos and the dinos on the deep state. Here's how I think we could do it, and I want to get your feedback and the feedback of the listeners on this. Imagine 20 million subscribers call their cable TV companies and threaten to cut their cable service in 1 week if the border wall isn't funded. And imagine these same people refuse to restore their cable service until the wall is funded.
Well, if we could organize the American people to do that, it would be very, very effective. Of course, right now Americans are cutting the cable. Cable TV companies are screaming. Everybody's going over to streaming services that come in over the internet, and the cable TV companies are in fact in decline for that very reason. But again, I really am looking at what's going on. With the gamesmanship, the factionalization, and to me, it looks like this government and our entire culture is just tearing itself apart. And there's going to be a crash, and I don't mean just economically. And what we really all need to be doing is to be prepared to deal with a period of hardship, like what happened after the Soviet Union collapsed. While those of us of good intent get together and restart this country on the original Constitution and the first 13 amendments. And one of the things we're going to have to do is say all of the career politicians from the previous system are barred from holding office.
Yes. But I want to continue this thread in line with what you're saying. Okay, if these 20 million subscribers, take their $50 a month they spend on cable TV and or streaming services and or going to the movies for Hollywood and so forth, and start paying that. First off, maybe to save up some stuff for themselves so that when the hard times come,
yes,
they can survive, and or send part of it in the GoFundMe for RBN, GoFundMe for the Wall, or support RBN, or Rhino and Dino Free Patriot Super PACs, which need to be created.
Yes.
Now that 20 million times $50 a month on average, that's $1 billion a month. $1 billion a month, less to big media, which is owned by the cable companies, or vice versa. They're on this. And if it all went to a GoFundMe for the wall would be paid for in 5 months.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, the GoFundMe that was started for the wall closed down because it didn't reach its goal within the allotted time. And so all that money has now been sent back to the people who donated. But there was quite a bit donated, which I think is a good measure for how the American people feel about this issue.
Anyway, if that's, I didn't know that, and that's sad, and maybe someone could start a new one. But what do you think big media the big media mega donors would do if they started losing that $1 billion a month? What do you think they would tell their rhinos and dinos that they control?
Oh, they'd say you have to make cable TV hookups mandatory. No, I'm not joking. We're getting into that situation here where people don't want to buy things, so we're being ordered to buy them. Things like vaccines, things like headsets for our cell phones, which I agree with headsets for the cell phones for safe driving. But we're seeing a lot of laws saying you must buy this, you must buy that, and that's going to be the next step.
But if they did that, wouldn't that be kind of a wake-up call for a lot more people?
Well, I think the American people are waking up. I think they're silent, but I don't think we should confuse silence with consent. In fact, I think anybody who is saying the American people are complacent is running a huge risk. And I think back to the Romanian Revolution, where 3 weeks before it all went down, if you've been walking around Romania, everything looked just fine. The people looked like they were getting along okay. I mean, there was a lot of TV cameras up on the street lights watching the streets and everything. And then all of a sudden, there was a sporting event that turned into a spontaneous political rally, and 2 weeks later, Ceausescu was machine gunned to death on Romanian national TV. It could happen that fast here.
Right. Well, I want people to think about this. This is basically a BDS-type move going after big media. And I'm curious what other people think, if it's a good idea, if we should try it, if it's even doable, if it would work. But I just want to say finally that, RBN is America's patriot think tank. Maybe we don't have the biggest numbers of a lot of people, listening compared to other networks, but the quality of the people who listen and the ability for people to just participate, it's open to everyone. It's really a treasure. And I hope everyone will continue to, keep it alive and tell 5.
All right,
Thanks,
well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And we're going to let you go now and switch over to Tim in Michigan. Aloha, Tim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Tim, are you there?
Hello?
Tim?
Yeah, this is Tom, Michael. Tom?
Oh, this is Tom. Okay, we somehow missed Tim in Michigan. Oh, Tim dropped. All right, Tom in Florida, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Good day to you, sir. Yeah, hi, Mike. Michael, as you know, gridlock continues on. I watched the debate on the floor today, and they voted no on both. And I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but this guy Bennett really looked like a fool, like a kook. the guy from Colorado.
Yeah.
I think he's smoking some good herb. He was pounding his, and he started talking about the founding fathers and all that. And I'm listening to this. And then he was really interested. He was going to talk about Ted Cruz's father, and then he stopped because I think then Cruz was like, Cruz really came back good on this guy. I must say that. Ted Cruz was very eloquent, and he got back at this guy Bennett pretty good on that the little debate they had. But I'm watching that debate is really ironic to me. It looked like a third world circus. This kind of reminded me of like what's going on in Venezuela.
Yes.
Or our government. It's like Venezuela we got going on here, and it's funny, Michael. There's only like one network that really talks about. Well, maybe two networks, even Fox. But none of the major networks ever say a word about what's happening in Venezuela right now.
Well, they are today. I mean, they're out there pushing Maduro's a dictator. We must intervene. And what's his name? Guaido. Juan Guaido is the legitimate and he's not legitimate. He wasn't elected. He simply stood up and said, "I'm the new president. I take the oath. Huzzah, huzzah!" And the U.S. is backing him, claiming that this is democracy. And, the U.S. likes to put out that word. We're doing this to spread democracy. Since the end of World War II, the U.S. government has overthrown the governments of 30 different nations. And every time they scream, we're bringing democracy to those people, not once has a true democracy emerged. Instead, they get the Shah of Iran, the dictator Pinochet, Ferdinand Marcos, and so forth and so on.
Well, Michael, exactly. Well, we're going to have another Cold War rush over this, potentially. Because the Russians are threatening now, I guess. They're going to try to get Venezuelan oil and all that. But what I don't understand is there's not one Latin country in Latin America that actually has a democracy other maybe than Panama. I guess Panama is somewhat like somewhere where they have a democracy there. But even I don't know about that even. But what I'm seeing, what's happened with the shutdown and Schumer, that Schumer, that guy, what a clown this guy is. And that last caller you had, he says the Democrats are called dinos. That's an insult to dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs had more brains. What's going on with these Democrats?
Well, it's an acronym. It's an acronym for Democrats in name only.
Okay, well, yeah, well, that's like pretty soon they're going to be changing the name of California to Mexifornia or
yeah, I've heard that one before. I've heard that one before as well.
Right. But getting back to the immigration, Michael, one more thing I want to say about this immigration problem. It has to be nipped in the bud with some kind of a barrier because, like Ted Cruz says, Donald Trump was talking about the wheel works. Well, the wheel does work. And you know what? Walls do work. And the guy Bennett was saying, well, the wall's medieval. Well, guess what? In medieval times, the walls were working very fine. It's like the wheels been working for 1,000 years. Matter of fact, in some parts of Africa, I don't even think they didn't know what the wheel was until like the 1600s. I mean, think about it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Getting the wall built, getting the border secure is only the first step, because we still have the problem of, these millions and millions and millions of illegals who are inside our country, living off the economy, voting illegally to vote themselves more bread and circuses. They've got to be rounded up and flung back over the border to where they came from and told, if you want to come into this country and be a citizen, you go through the legal immigration policy, or you apply for asylum, but that's a long paperwork process as well. You're not allowed to come on in here illegally and say, I'm claiming asylum and I get to live here and sponge off the legal citizens while the paperwork gets processed. Because the vast majority of people who apply for asylum status in this country are turned down because they don't meet the requirements to be granted asylum.
Favor, can you prove to me? I want to know what the facts are. Are these illegals, each one of them, costing $70,000 a year? That's what I really wanted to know. I would like somebody to show the statistic on that. What is the actual cost of every illegal in this country? How much is it costing American taxpayers for every illegal per year?
I think that's a number that we need to find. I think that's a number that we need to find. Then we multiply it by the number of illegals that came out of that Yale study, and that'll be a wake-up call for Americans, especially as we head into tax season. And they're going to say, this is nuts. The government is taking my money away. None of it's coming back to me in my community. It's going to the illegals. It's going to the war machine. It's going to Israel. It's going to Wall Street. What the heck is going on here?
And can you imagine, Michael, if it's $70,000 or more, the American public will go nuts. They'll be marching out Washington with pitchforks. That's what will happen if that real true number comes out, and the mass media were to talk about it. Every American will find out how much money this costs an American taxpayer per illegal individual. It'll set a precedent like it's never seen. I don't know what's going to happen with Washington with that one.
Yeah,
it'll be insane.
It is going to be insane.
Thank you.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network, and we're going to close the phone lines again because I'm still way behind on today's talking points here. Okay, the Trump administration is warning that the U.S. economy may not grow at all during the first quarter of 2019. So we may be looking at the start of a recession. This one probably is going to be global. Over at BuzzFeed, apparently, they're expected to cut around 15% of their workforce next week as it tries to cut costs and reorganize the company. This is coming from the Wall Street Journal. So this will be about 250 jobs while restructuring its business model to focus on more profitable areas such as content licensing and e-commerce. They want a business model where they're not having to rely on fundraising. Well, good luck on that one. Over at the Huffington Post, their entire opinion section is being shut down. And so that staff is now pink-slipped, and they're going to be out there in the media world competing with BuzzFeed's fired employees to find new work. And in all, the media industry lost about 1,000 jobs this week. Let's all feel bad for the corporate media. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And somebody just actually sent me a couple of articles about how much the illegal immigrants are costing the American taxpayer. And so basically, it comes out to $116 billion with a B. So that is pretty intense. All right. Now, remember Gillette's toxic masculinity ad? It's prompted all kinds of spoofs and parodies and so forth. And to nobody's surprise, Gillette sales have plummeted. Apparently, Gillette offended their own customer base with this toxic masculinity ad. Nobody even really knows what toxic masculinity is supposed to be. It's just the latest buzzword. Oh, masculinity is bad. It's toxic. It's toxic masculinity. Anything masculine is bad. And it's cost them. They're apparently taking a major hit. To nobody's surprise, this last holiday shopping season was a brutal one for U.S. retailers, especially department stores and companies that sell luxury products. And apparently, part of the problem was that the volatility of the stock market in December made the wealthier shoppers more nervous about spending money. And of course, it's the wealthy shoppers that the retailers are depending upon. Come on in, buy these luxury items. We got the latest perfume. It's only $400 a bottle here. There are now calls for a global wealth task. This is circulating around Davos. And it was triggered by the revelation that the world's 26 richest billionaires now own as much wealth as the bottom half of the entire human population. And so they're literally saying it's time to start taxing the ultra wealthy in order to get that money to recycle back down to the bottom. Because without that recycling, without the money that's collected at the top finding some way back down to the bottom, the system's going to collapse. And that's exactly what's happening. Now, Mike Pompeo is over there at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he basically was up there making a pro-nationalist speech celebrating the death of globalism and saying that nations matter. And Pompeo defended Trump's 2016 campaign slogan, Make America Great Again, as a philosophy that accelerated economic growth in the country and improved the lives of average Americans. And he encouraged the gathering, including both world leaders and influential global business people, to embrace economic security and reject the influences of international bodies far removed from the interests of the people. I think that was a dig both at Brussels and at George Soros. Over in Belgium, Senator and former Secretary General of Doctors Without Borders, Alain Destech, has slammed elites for their handling of mass migration and the lack of any debate on the long-term effects. Now, this veteran politician was first elected in 1995, has released a book entitled Immigration and Integration Before It's Too Late. And that really has been a problem with all of this migrant situation. The failure to integrate, the failure of these migrants to adapt to the local laws, the local economy, and the local behavior. And we're seeing this attitude, both here in the United States and over in Europe, where the migrants and illegal immigrants are coming on in and demanding that we all change to be what it was they were running away from, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Destech is claiming that Belgium, along with other countries like France, they've lost control of immigration. About 3/4 of immigration in Belgium, as in France, is beyond the control of the administrative authorities. Over in Italy, a Nigerian migrant narrowly avoided being lynched by an angry mob of Italians after he attempted to drag a local woman into an alley to rape her. And apparently this took place on a street behind the Piazza Garibaldi in the vicinity of the Napoli Central Railway Station in Naples. Up in Germany, a fake asylum seeker has been charged with murder and child rape. And apparently this Iraqi asylum seeker, he was rejected for asylum. That's when they get really dangerous because they're going to get sent home. Hey, let's go on a party. 21-year-old Ali Bashar apparently beat, then raped, and then strangled to death schoolgirl Susanna Maria Feldman. Again, in Germany, a gang of between 20 and 30 young men, described by police as being predominantly migrants, attacked local Germans as well as employees at the train station in the city of Gelsenkirchen over the weekend. Just beating up on passengers, letting loose with fire extinguishers. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354 or visit MIG911.com.
Do you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Ann, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And turning to immigration, and I just put up one of those articles that was sent to me about just what it does cost the American people for all these illegal immigrants. I'm looking at another one where apparently illegal immigrants receiving Medicaid cost taxpayers $18.5 billion annually. So if we simply cut that off and say that no, illegals are not entitled to receive those services, it's a Title VIII violation, there's the money for the border wall plus. Anyway, out in California, newly minted Governor Gavin Newsom wants to use $20 million of state funds to create an immigration rapid response program that provides aid to migrants who arrive at California's budget. And basically, he wants to give this money to humanitarian organizations and nonprofit entities that currently provide aid to the illegal migrants. All of which, again, is a violation of Title VIII here. Over in New York, the far, far left governor there, the same guy who just signed that horrible abortion bill that you can abort a baby right up to the moment of birth, he's passed a new DREAM Act which gives college scholarships and grants to illegal aliens. Most legal citizens won't get the same benefit. And basically, Cuomo has socialists in charge of the legislature. He can do anything and is doing anything he wants. And so his latest move is to give illegal aliens access to state financial aid and scholarships for higher education. It's a benefit most citizens don't get, but will be forced to pay for the illegals to get. Ann Coulter is out there basically wagging her finger and says, it's time to break grounds, not promises. And she said, let's get the wall built. Well, she's wagging her finger at the Trump administration, but it's really been Pelosi and Schumer who's currently standing in the way. But she does make a valid point. Trump had a Republican Congress for 2 years. Why didn't they fund the border wall back then? Who dropped the ball on that one? Now, I mentioned this a little while ago during one of our phone calls here. Border Patrol, of course, is setting up cameras to watch certain areas of the existing border fence. And their latest video caught 110 migrants scaling the U.S.-Mexico border wall, and they did it very easily because the people smuggler who drove them up in a bus apparently brought along some very tall ladders, and they just set up a ladder on one side, they lower another ladder on the other side, people scamper on over, they recover the ladders, and they're gone. Our border is a joke, and it's going to stay a joke until we cut off all the free stuff. Turning to Brexit, apparently former MI6 head Sir Richard Dearlove and the previous chief of the defense staff, Lord Guthrie, have written to Conservative associate chairs claiming the EU withdrawal agreement threatens national security. Now, this is talking about the Chequers plan, and they're basically saying we cannot support Theresa May's Brexit deal. And their concern is that May's deal, as currently written, would surrender British forces and intelligence services to European Union control. I told you it was just a giveaway. It was a giveaway. And they're saying that this would damage Britain's relationship with NATO, the U.S., the leading Commonwealth security and intelligence partners, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Now, interestingly enough, Alex von Schoenberg came on out with an editorial basically saying, we Germans owe Britain a great debt and should let you leave Europe with the concessions you need and your heads held high. And basically saying that, yeah, we have to remember, if it hadn't been for Great Britain standing up to Hitler, there wouldn't be a Europe today as we know it. So some voices are coming on out saying, yeah, it's time to let Great Britain go. And of course, Brussels is saying if they let Britain go, then other countries are going to want to go, and that cannot be allowed. WikiLeaks is getting ready to sue the Department of Justice to unseal these charges, which are known to exist against Julian Assange. Now, the charges were accidentally revealed due to a copy-paste error in an unrelated federal case involving a 29-year-old who'd been charged with enticing a 15-year-old girl into sex acts, but buried in there was a reference to charges that exist against Julian Assange. And obviously Assange and WikiLeaks would like to know exactly what that is. What is it that the United States thinks they have where they can bring him back to the United States and put him in court? Now, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have published materials very embarrassing to the U.S. government and certain individual politicians, but that's not a crime. And again, if you go back to the Supreme Court decision that came out of the Pentagon Papers case, the newspapers, the Washington Post and the New York Times, did not commit espionage. They did not steal the documents. The documents were leaked to them. And that it's a fine line, but it's a significant one. And the Supreme Court ruled that the New York Times and the Washington Post had every right to post that information because the American people needed to know how the government had been lying to them about Vietnam for year after year after year after year. And Justice Black in his decision had this memorable quote: "The press exists to serve the governed, not the governors." And that's exactly what it should be. Our corporate media, of course, serves corporations and it serves the government, it serves Israel. But that's what the independent media is here for. We're here to serve the governed, to be a watchdog on government abuse. Getting back on over to the Supreme Court, they're getting ready to hear one of the biggest gun rights cases since 2010. They're taking a look at New York's gun law. And at issue is a challenge to one of the provisions of this New York City gun law that says where a licensed handgun owner can take their firearm. Now, the law says that you cannot remove the gun from the address listed on the license except to travel to authorized small arms range and shooting clubs. That's it. You can't take it anywhere else with you. And a lawsuit has been filed against that on Second Amendment grounds. And so it's going to go to what is now a conservative Supreme Court. But apparently in New York, if you have a gun, you're allowed to keep it at home and you're allowed to go to shooting clubs. You're not allowed to have it in your motor vehicle in case you're the victim of a hijacking or carjacking. Okay. All right, we're just getting this little headline from Political Insider. And apparently in response to CNN's reports of Trump getting ready to declare a national emergency and pull $7 billion out of the Pentagon budget to build the wall, Pelosi apparently is preparing a spending package for border security measures. Now, whether it includes the wall or not remains to be seen, because one of the things they've already tried is to tell Trump, we'll give you the $5.6 billion, but you have to spend it where we tell you to spend it, which is going to be scanners and, you know, nifty new uniforms for the border control people and everything, but you're not allowed to build the wall. So we'll see what happens with that one here. Getting on back to gun rights here, there's a study coming from the Department of Justice, which has concluded, and this should not surprise anybody at all, gun control laws won't work because criminals get their guns illegally. It took the United States Department of Justice an entire study dedicated to gun use and criminals to figure out what we ordinary people have already understood for decades. The Department of Justice's own study found that gun control laws will never work because criminals do not use legal channels to obtain guns. Well, duh. There's a surprise for you. All right, the Bundys are back in the news. As you know, not too long ago, the courts dismissed the case against Cliven Bundy, his sons, and his supporters over that 2014 armed standoff with BLM agents. And it was dismissed because the feds were caught suborning perjury. They basically lied, and apparently not wanting to look bad, the federal government is now appealing the dismissal. They want to go back to court. They want to drag the Bundys back on in. If at first you don't succeed, try again. So, yeah, it's amazing. Up in Canada, this one is kind of weird. Apparently, there is a new impaired driving law, Bill C-46. And apparently, the police in Canada can now use SWAT powers to utterly destroy your entire residence in order to coerce you to submit to a breathalyzer test. Out in public, they are allowed to strip search you, regardless of where you are. I mean, Canada used to be a really nice place, very polite people, but they're definitely going down that fascist path as well. Out in Los Angeles, a little bit of whoopsie. The LAPD, in order to show they were going green, they spent $10 million on these electric BMWs. And it turns out there was an investigation by one of the local media out there finding out that most of those cars are sitting in the garage with only a couple of hundred miles on the odometer. And they also found that police officials were just using these cars for private use. One LAPD commander took one of the electric BMWs to a nail salon to get a manicure. It's just absolutely silly here. We were talking before about this new law that just got signed into effect by Cuomo in New York. The law removes all legal protections for unborn child and allows non-doctors to perform abortions. And so apparently the law repealed a legislation saying that babies over 24 weeks could be considered potential homicide victims. But after signing the bill, Andrew Cuomo ordered that the spire of One World Trade Center, as well as other bridges and buildings in the state capital of Albany, be lit pink in celebration. I'm surprised they didn't find one of those funny little hats to put on the top of it, or put on top of the Statue of Liberty here. Now, of course, New York State's bishops have decried the move, which is funny. Cuomo himself is Catholic, but he just went on in and did this here. Down in Sydney, Australia, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals faked barbecuing a dog on a busy street. This was on the Pitt Street Mall, and I remember where that is. And of course, PETA's thing is you shouldn't eat meat, you shouldn't eat meat. And they were out there saying, if you wouldn't eat a dog, why would you eat a lamb? Well, I'm sure that probably the Korean population there would disagree with you. There have actually been a lot of cultures, including the Native Americans, who ate dogs. But the school children got severely traumatized by this here. Over in Kokkola, Finland, and this tells you just how out of control this whole political correctness thing is going. There's been an outroar because this school literally ordered their students to watch this homoerotic movie in the name of tolerance education, and said that any students who didn't watch the movie would be fined. Whatever happened to reading, writing, arithmetic, and job skills? That's what I would like to know. Again, up in Canada, the Canadian Medical Association Journal has published a review article urging doctors to prescribe hormone blockers to so-called transgender kids as young as 10 years old. They can't possibly know if they're transgender at that point. They may have been told that by their teachers and by their parents, but they don't really know. This is chemical mutilation of these kids. Let them grow up and find their own way. Somebody is pushing this agenda so hard, and again, it's part of this disconnecting us all from reality. Alrighty. Dr. Rayford Brown, chair of the FDA's Committee for Reviewing Opioid Approvals, interviewed by The Guardian, said that basically the agency is bowing to Big Pharma by approving a new high-risk opioid that is 10 times stronger than fentanyl, despite doctors' warnings it will potentially kill people. And right now, a lot of people are dying from this opioid crisis. So the FDA approved this new opioid, Suvia, despite its own Board of Physicians warning the drug is easy to abuse and could cause more deaths. Now, Dr. Brown was one of a number of committee members who he claims were deliberately barred from voting on the drug because the in-person vote was scheduled for the same day as a conference that most of them had to attend. And here's a really good one. Over at Merck, they have this multiple pediatric vaccine called Recombivax. Now, back in June of 2017, Merck got hit with the NotPetya ransomware, and it disrupted their supply chain. And it turned out that Recombivax became unavailable, and doctors started using something else, and they noticed something very odd. The rate of childhood deaths, deaths in babies, dropped. And the villain appears to be this aluminum hydroxide adjuvant contained in this Recombivax. And so Recombivax has now been discontinued as a pediatric vaccine. Why did it have to basically get out in the real world and have this computer malware stop the supply long enough for people to say, hey, look, the babies are surviving now with this different vaccine? It was an interesting article that came on out in Health Impact News saying that medicine is the idolatry of the 21st century. We're supposed to worship it, believe in it, bow down before it, never question it. We'll be right back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. Airoutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. Airoutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to Airoutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Final segment of our program today here. And again, trying to convince the American people that the government shutdown is bad. They're now coming on out here and saying that the security certificates on .gov websites are expiring, and without the spending bill, they cannot be renewed. And apparently cyber criminals are exploiting this situation to try and basically scam the American people. Microsoft is now basically pre-installing the fake news filter NewsGuard into their mobile browser. Now, it used to be optional. You could download the app as before, but Edge users on Android and Apple devices can just click one button to enable its green-red rating signal if a website is trying to get it right or is a hidden agenda. Now, the green-rated websites are Voice of America, CNN, BuzzFeed, The Guardian, New York Times, and The Washington Post, as well as left-leaning upstarts such as Vice News and Refinery 29. Sites that were given the red warning label of failing to maintain basic standards of accuracy and accountability: Russia Today, Sputnik, the right-wing Daily Mail, Breitbart, and the Judge Report, as well as hundreds of other non-mainstream news websites such as WikiLeaks. So there's a good reason to go Linux here. They're basically trying to hardwire the censorship into your device, and they don't want you to even have a choice about it anymore. All righty. Let's see. Malware is getting more and more clever, and apparently malvertisers are now targeting Macintosh users by using stenographic code hidden in images. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, steganography is the process of taking binary data and encoding it into the low order bits of image files, where it looks like it's just random noise, like CCD noise, but it isn't. It's actual data. And apparently some of this malware basically will go onto your machine, and as the image is loaded, there is apparently a facility within Macintosh that will basically look through the image, and somehow the data is extracted, and they can have all kinds of malware code there, and none of the existing antivirus systems are able to detect it. Yesterday we were reporting on how the malware authors are now resorting to AI to write malware that is constantly mutating and changing to evade antivirus software. I think it's time for some government somewhere on this planet to start taking this problem very, very seriously. And finally, our last story for the day. Europe wants to mine the moon by 2025. The European Space Agency is out there saying that, yeah, we're going to do that. And it sounds great, but what is missing is just what they expect to find on the moon that justifies the unit cost of extraction. Now, what I mean by that is if it costs $101 to mine $100 worth of gold, the mine will close down. In this case, we're talking about travel back and forth to the moon, plus returning the mined cargo, which we presume will weigh a lot more than the 800 pounds of rocks brought back by Apollo. So, again, I don't know what they think they're going to find there. It would be nice if they found something. But that's the missing part. Okay, there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with everybody that you know. And please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow with the lovely Lady Claire. So until then, aloha, America.